Welcome to the Foul Front Podcast, a part of the Waypoint Outdoor Collective. I'm your host, Ben Page, and this is your source for hunting, outdoors, and conservation conversations. In an eclectic and sometimes unorganized fashion, I appreciate you coming by. Okay, hey, welcome to the Foul Front. Today, I'm joined by Max Akerman. Now, Max is a freelance photographer, videographer, creative storyteller. He currently works a lot with hardcore brands, and you probably know him from the hardcore brands, the Glory Days, the one with Tony Vandemore, those videos that went up a couple months back. He's also a subpar motocross racer. Max, is that a pretty telling intro?
Yeah, I think that's good. Motocross, a little in the past. I still get to ride a little bit though.
Yes, yeah. We'll get to that here in just in a second. But Max, where are you at right now?
Right now, I'm in Northern Illinois. I'm at home, sitting in my office. Just had a night of scouting teal and kind of getting my cards together and see what I'm going to do for work tomorrow. Nice.
And now you said you didn't find any teal, is what I heard. So
yeah, we found a couple. Let's see, we open up here on Sunday in Illinois. In Illinois we open up on Sunday for goose, and then Wisconsin opens up for teal and goose. Luckily, the end of my road tees into Wisconsin, so I've just got a little jaunt up. But we're actually going to head further up a little ways, about an hour from my place, and it's going to be a lot of work to get back where we need to be, but it'll be fun, and hopefully it'll pay off, and we'll have some good footage from it.
Yeah, no one cares how hard you work on the first hunt, right?
You know, that's kind of, I'm not going to lie, I was filming while we were scouting tonight, so I didn't have the hard part. I just had to sit in the boat with the camera and film the other guys doing the work, but it was like rowing the boat, getting out, pushing the boat, and I was like, man. Already,
now
we're starting strong on the first day.
Now what's your boat situation? Because people, I tell someone, oh man, I say, hey, I got a boat, and then they create this illusion in their mind, and then they are sorely disappointed when they see my boat.
So our situation with a boat would be 100% how you just described it. It sounds real cool. You know, we get to duck hunt out of a boat, but I actually myself don't own a boat. Two of my buddies that I hunt with, they own boats, and it's your straight up 14-foot flat bottom boat with whatever you can find as a tiller to throw on the back of it. So
yeah,
the one that I'll be in is probably a 1980s boat with a 1960s motor. So it's nothing glorious, but you know what? I think he's got maybe $250 or $300 invested in it, and it's gonna get us to where we need to be to shoot some birds. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, I almost put my wife in the hospital because we were at a get together and some guy was talking about his boat, and I said, "Oh, you got a boat?" And I said, "I got a boat." And my wife, she's not very fond of my Armada, my backyard Armada, as she calls it, and I almost put her in the hospital from her rolling her eyes so hard. I think they were going to have to put one of them eyes back in her head. Cause, everybody's, I got this, this wakeboarding boat, and I'm talking about like a little, tinfoil thing with a couple fishing seats on it and maybe an electric motor. So,
but you know what? It does the job, and that's your boat.
Damn right it does. That's my boat. Yeah.
And I think with so many like manufacturers and just the persona overall in the waterfowl industry, like everybody thinks you need to have an Excel or you need a Mud Buddy or a Prodigy or whatever it be. It's like, you know what, you use what you can afford. If there's a will, there's a way you can get it done.
I saw, and everyone's going to think I'm lying, I kid you not, I saw in Kansas 2 college kids on a freaking like blow up mattress, like kiddie pool thing, getting back into one of these sloughs. No kidding.
Hey,
So.
you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, I remember when I first started hunting, there was times where I actually did own a boat. Then I had a 14-foot flat bottom with a homemade 13-horse mud motor on it. And I remember loading that thing down with 4 guys and all the decoys. And it's like, that was, looking back now, it's like, wow, that was very stupid. But you know what? Like, that's what we lived for, was going out there, and it didn't matter. We'd shuffle guys back and forth from the bridge, and if we shot 2 birds, we were happy. You know, and
yeah.
To me, that's definitely what it's all about. But I've seen some crazy stuff with boats that are too small doing the job they're doing.
Oh yeah. Now you said Illinois starts its early goose season this weekend, next weekend or this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend on Sunday, our early honker season opens up.
Yeah, I got 2 of my boys from around here. They're college kids. We're in like a scouting party. We kind of scout and we share scouts and information and in hunts. We don't always hunt together, but they just texted me. They said that they were heading up there to get on some early birds, and I thought that was mighty ambitious of them.
Yeah, you know, honestly, this year's a lot different than years past. Last year, we had a ton of sheet water during early season, and it seems like temperatures were a little bit cooler. And I know that a few of the days that we were out, we could see migrators coming from the north, which were, in my opinion, just the molts or the non-breeders. But this year, it's like crops got in late. Not a whole lot of people had wheat. Any cover crop that people did was oats, and that stuff's like knee high right now. We don't have a lot of dairy farms, so there's no silage fields. So our birds right now, I mean, it's just your regular city honkers that are sitting in town eating Kentucky Blue that's just been sprayed by a green lawn or whatever. And I don't think they're leaving there. They're just going to go from there to the little pond right next to the yard, and that's what they're going to do. So I think early honkers for us, exactly where I'm at, it's going to be terrible. Now, you go an hour to the east, get closer to Lake Michigan, and you get more of the little pothole stuff and a lot bigger population of resident geese. And I think that's where the early season will be fun.
Here's a question for you. So, obviously with all the flooding that we've had, and it sounds like you guys have, actually, I know you guys have had it as well. So we've just had, all my walk-in spots they're 20 foot underwater right now. But what I've noticed is there's a lot of crops that got in late. You know what I mean? So, on a macro scale, there's less crops and there'll be a later harvest. And I think that'll be interesting. I think a lot of people are looking at that as a pretty dangerous thing. But here's the other thing, that I was kind of looking at is there's some fields that got in right at the right time. And those farmers are going to harvest it at the right time. And, that stuff's going to be ready. You know what I mean? And so you're going to have these little pockets, these little areas that, are ripe for the pickings. I feel like, and stuff that the birds are used to. Just like little isolated pockets. Now, maybe on a macro scale, yeah, you might see less, but I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a couple trucks sitting outside of, a smaller amount of cornfields, this year here in Kansas. What do you think?
Man, my opinion on that is, luckily where I'm at, it's not like you can't just go knock on somebody's door and say, hey, can I get in this field for a day? Like, people around here are they're pretty particular with who they let hunt their stuff. And a lot of times it's people that have been hunting it for years. We've got a few fields that are up on hilltops that are going to be cut, around the time that they normally would. And I think that as long as the decrease in temperature happens at the right time and we get pushes at the right time when those certain fields are cut, I think that we're gonna line up all right, and our hilltop fields are gonna be really good. But man, if we get a real cold front and a big push early on before they get crops out. That's what's making me nervous because, I mean, granted, we're going to have...
They're just going to hop over.
Yeah, we're going to have resident birds that are going to stick around, but I really hope they don't overshoot us this year. And our water situation is, believe it or not, I mean, our river's really low right now. I don't know if they have the gates shut to the north of us or what, but we unfortunately... the rest of the country couldn't use it, but we could definitely use some rain right now.
Interesting. Good. I guess I thought everybody kind of was flooded out, but
our rivers around here are a lot different. You know, when I was filming down in Missouri and doing that stuff with Vandemore, I got to be up on the levee and see the Missouri River and how the flood actually impacted people and how it floods down there. And it's like, you come up here, your riverbanks are a lot bigger, and it seems like the river is more down to grade. Typically like that, it's kind of down in the valley, so it never really floods. Like, we don't have true river bottom stuff up here. But I mean, we had our high times where it would hit ditches and make its way out. You
don't have meandering rivers, I guess, is what you're saying. Like,
absolutely,
how it goes through like a riparian, like low plains area.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. There's some dude just pulling his hair out right now that knows about waterways and how they're actually supposed to be called, and he's just pulling his hair out. How I described that.
Oh yeah. I don't, and too, like, I don't have the first thing about water. I'm not too fond of water. I'm a field guy. I like pulling my trailer right into a field and setting up. I don't like being around water, but with this job, man, it's kind of part of the gig.
Yeah, I'm no riverologist.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Okay, Max. We know that you're from Illinois, right? Born and bred?
Sir. Born and bred right here in the same town.
How did you get into hunting?
Man, that is actually, it's interesting because growing up, I never had an interest in hunting. I never had an interest in guns. I didn't really, all I cared about then was riding dirt bikes and playing hockey. And, when I got into high school, I kind of was hanging out with some buddies, and they were all the country kids, if you will. And, they kind of they got me into hunting, and yeah, the Trump Club. They got me into hunting, and, it really took off from there. I'm kind of the person that when I do something, I put 110% effort into it. So it wasn't long after they got me into it where I noticed I was going more than they were, and they more or less were kind of the weekend warrior type deals. And I was like, eat, sleep, and breathe hunting at that point. So I got into it from buddies at high school, and man, it's been a wild ride ever since.
Yeah. And okay, so two things that kind of brings this out, and it revolves around fathers, I guess. Yeah, I guess I'm assuming. So how did your dad take into that?
Honestly, man, my dad, like, growing up, we fished. You know, we'd go to Canada and fish up there, and we had a little lake house, I don't know, a couple hours north of here. We'd do some fishing up there, but as far as shooting and hunting, I mean, still to this day, he doesn't do either of them. So he'll get out and shoot a little bit if we invite him out, but he is not a hunter. Nobody in my family really. I mean, aunts, uncles, distant. I mean, I'm the black sheep, that's for sure.
Wow. Okay. Well, we will touch on that here in just a second, because that is super interesting. The other comment that I wanted to make, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. I often feel like the guys that grew up hunting, they were going when they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's always been in their life and all this stuff. They're very, you can't say that they're not avid hunters, to this day. But the guys that kind of get into it late, there's a difference. I feel like there's just a tiny bit more edge or a little bit more hunger in it. At least it's what I perceive. and being like a late onset hunter myself and kind of perceiving how people think of you, as, you know, oh, well, how long you been hunting, waterfowl? About 7 years. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And it's like, there's like almost a drive to learn more, to consume it more. It like consumes them more since they didn't have that. They didn't always have it. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would think that, and at least that's how it was with me. I don't know if it's my personality or if other people are like-minded, but it seems like there's just that certain age where if you get into it when you're, you know, 15, 16, 17 years old, or even later at that point, you want to learn, you want to do things on your own, you're kind of starting to be independent in life. And I think the drive for people that have picked it up at the later part in life, they're maybe using it to fill a void or, you know, something to that nature. And I think there's definitely more drive in people that pick it up when it's later, because I don't know. That's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
Without
it's a tough question to answer without pissing some people off. Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's the short frame of it.
It's almost, I guess, kind of goes back to the, you know, certain things being a privilege and certain things being a right. And it's like, you know, the people that grew up hunting, I just think that they always expect they're going to be able to do it. And the people that kind of started later, I think they understand what life without hunting's like, and then what life with hunting's like, and they work harder for it.
I had a guy I was talking to once, and he asked him, well, how long you been hunting waterfowl? I said, oh, this is I think when I first started this podcast, I'd been hunting for like 5 years or almost 6 years. And he goes, why you got a podcast about waterfowl hunting then? And I was like, thought about it for like probably 10 seconds. I said, because I can't shut up about waterfowl hunting. That's why, dude. Like, I don't know.
The thing that's frustrating, I mean, with my personality, I'd have been like, because I do, you know, because you want to engage with people and you want to talk about the thing that is on your mind, you know, night and day. And that's the whole experience. I think, yeah, it's unexplainable.
Yeah. One thing that you just said there, and then we'll get off this topic right after this is, I'd never framed it like this. I'm always jealous of, man, I wish my dad would have been into waterfowl hunting when I was little so that I could, you know, this could be year 23 of my waterfowl hunting. But then, like you just said, is not knowing a life before, waterfowl hunting. And I wonder, you know, what that difference would be. And obviously I know that I probably wouldn't be here. So, all right, we'll get back into it. Okay. So, how did you go from not hunting, you know, you got into it in high school and, now you're filming it. Let's fill the people in.
So I kind of, you know, through high school and stuff, I took some photography courses and, I enjoyed it. And my later part of high school life, I did what all kids did and all kids do, I should say. And I like to have fun and stopped using a camera and went out and, you know, hung out with friends and rode dirt bikes. And then fast forward a little bit, and I was 22 years old at the time. This was in 2012. I was racing motocross all over the place and I got hurt. And when I was hurt, I was on the couch, and at that time I was doing a lot of whitetail hunting. So I was watching whitetail shows and I just was like, man, I kind of want to start filming my stuff, and I think I could do a lot of this stuff. And so I bought a camera, and the rest is history. I started at that point and picked up a camera and started editing again, and it just progressed from there.
Okay, so in our pre-conversations here, you said something to me that is in contrast to what a lot of people in photography and videography tell me, there so many times people say camera don't matter. You know, a great photographer can go out with a Kodak, you know, what do you call it? The reusable, not even the reusable ones. The
ones like a Polaroid.
Yeah. And they'll go kill it. But you kind of said something that was kind of piqued my interest. And you said, you know, there was kind of a catalyst for you, and it was a certain piece of gear that really elevated or ramped up kind of your production and kind of catapulted you into like, okay, this is where I'm at now.
Yeah. For me, you know, when the first camera that I bought was a Canon XH-A1. And I filmed with that for a while, and that was kind of right when the DSLR stage was getting set, and Heartland was doing some stuff with DSLRs, and then Held Ground Outdoors was filming with them. And after, I would say, about a year of the XH-A1, I think I was pretty much tapped out on its capabilities. So I'd went ahead and purchased a Sony FS700. And when I did that, it was like there was so much more opportunity for me, and I could shoot stuff in slow motion. And that's when kind of the slow motion craze started. And it's like, you know, I feel like for me that camera specifically was a huge breakthrough point, and it made my career excel a lot faster.
So you get hurt and you're on your bike, out doing motocross stuff, and you're sitting there on the couch all laid up and you're watching TV. You're watching, just whitetail stuff, right? Do you remember any of the shows?
Yeah. I mean, like Heartland Bowhunter and Held Ground Outdoors have always been my go-to for, whitetail stuff, because
yeah.
It's more cinematography than it is videography, if you will. You know, you actually see the creation that they're making with the camera. It's not just hit record and let something unfold. They're telling the story, and every time you see it, you can, you know, it's almost with all the B-roll shots and everything, you almost feel like you're there. And that's what I like the most about their work, for sure. And it's definitely inspiring too.
Yeah. Okay. So you're sitting there watching this stuff. And at this point you had a little bit of camera experience, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you're watching these shows and you're thinking to yourself, what, like, man, I wonder how they did this shot, or you know,
for me, it was like, I instantly, after I kind of grew, I don't want to say grew a liking, but after I got so infatuated with the shows, it was like, I wanted to start, you know, breaking things down. It's like, okay, how are they shooting these shots where they're getting sun flares? It's like, all right, well, they're shooting them early in the day or, you know, later in the afternoon. And it's like just the level that, okay, the amount of persuasion that a sun flare puts on a shot. It's like, okay, you know, so there's one thing. And then you look at another shot and they're shooting time lapses and you're like, all right, well, how do I do that? Well, then before you know it, I'm on the internet researching how to shoot a time lapse, and you break down certain shots, camera movement, sliders, jibs. At that time, that was before gimbals and things like that were around. And it's like, all right, I know that I can do this stuff, but I want to figure out how I can do it, whether that means having to buy sliders, make sliders, intervalometers, whatever it be. And
this is in high school.
This was out of high school.
Oh, this was out of high school.
Yeah.
When did you hurt yourself?
I was 22.
You were 22. Okay, so you were a semi-adult, and you were riding around on dirt bikes.
I was a semi-adult that was acting like a child. Yeah, no, at the time I was racing Open A and 250A, which is kind of the local expert level.
You were serious.
Yeah, and you know, we'd go around.
I thought you were just at the local, like, you know, garbage pile, like ramping off of cardboard and stuff.
Oh no, it was a lot of you know, going and hitting fair races during the week, trying to make money to at least make it back home. And pay for a little bit of dinner and fuel money home. But it was, man, I've raced in the MGM in Vegas. I've all over the United States. It was fun. It definitely wasn't just a backyard riding hobby with the boys. I was fully invested in it.
I made an ass out of myself.
Well, that's all right.
I was trying to make fun of you for crashing your motorcycle, which probably not a great place to start when it comes to, humor and comedy. But I guess I didn't do the research and, check whether or not you were, MGM level, I guess. Jeez.
Yeah, I did that. I raced in the MGM and, the Arena Cross World Finals in the intermediate class in 2008, I believe. And then in 2009, I qualified again and went out there. And then, fall of 2009 was when I moved up to the A class, which is kind of local.
You know what I know about motocross? There was a Disney movie about motocross, wasn't there? Like when we were growing up.
You know what? That's so funny that you say that, because I just saw that they're coming out with another motocross knockoff, where I guess it would be like the two things combined, because this guy's he's an army guy, and he goes off and he gets hurt.
Hitting all the check boxes.
He gets off and he goes off and gets hurt in the army, and then they tell him he can't ride again, and he was I don't know. I saw it and I was like, gosh, Hollywood's gonna botch this one so bad on both ends of the deal.
Yeah.
I get to watch it for the motocross and say, wow, everything they shot was wrong, and the sounds that they dubbed in were wrong, and you watch it from the army perspective and be like, yep, that's not how it is.
never. I don't try to get too caught up in it, but I'm just thinking to myself, you couldn't spend you could pay me like $200 a day to just go stay on set, and I just tell you well, that guy's wearing his badge on the wrong side. You don't salute with your left hand. You spend all this money on this stuff and you can't get these little tiny things right to have just an advisor come in.
And it's millions and millions of dollars. That's the thing. It's holy
crazy.
And you wonder what's wrong with the country. I mean, come on.
You pay me $300 a day. I'll make all the damn sandwiches, and I'll tell you what's okay. Yeah, I'll inspect everybody. All right. Anyways, what was
do
that
it for half that? But that's me.
Yeah. What was that movie called?
The one that they're coming out with now, or the one that you were talking about? No. Moto. It's literally motocrossed.
Oh, they reached.
Yeah, real creative. I think actually with some research, they had another title for it that was the final lap or something like that. But I don't know why they came out with just motocrossed.
My brother is a philosopher and a very deep thinker and very well read. And I believe all those Disney movies and all that stuff, they're all Shakespeare and classical writing applications into pop culture and little kid stuff. That one's based off of a shrew or whatever the hell it's called, or Twelfth Night or something like that. I remember him talking to me about this. We need to bring it back to waterfowl.
We can talk all night and it's just going to go round and round.
Yeah. This is good. Okay. So what's your first job? Your first job, filming. Somebody's paying you to film.
My first job paid. I filmed a wedding for my friend's brother, and I think he gave me I don't know. I want to say it was a couple $100. And I
bet she was pleased.
At the time too. It's I remember I was shooting photos for it too. So I shot photos and video, and for a couple $100, I remember going down to. Actually, at the time, I had a Canon printer, so I printed all the photos myself. And oh my gosh, looking back now, it's sorry, Tad. Sorry, I should have never charged you for that.
Oh man, was she happy? Because it doesn't matter about what Tad thinks.
I don't know. You know, it's kind of one of those deals where I just like handed him off to Tad, and it was like, here you go, bud. Thanks.
Bye now.
You know.
Okay. I'll reframe the question. The first time someone pays you to film hunting.
The first time I got paid to film hunting, that would have been in 2013. I think it would have been 13. I started working for Hallowed Ground Outdoors, which was actually, I'm sorry, it was 2014. I started working for Hallowed Ground Outdoors, which was actually one of the shows that I was watching when I was hurt. And that was crazy. I ended up there by just a fluke coincidence, I guess. Joe Sir, he owns Risen Media. He followed me on Facebook and saw some of the shots that I was getting, and he sent me a message on Facebook, and he's like, hey, what do you think about moving out to Iowa and working for me? And, you know, at that time, you're just I was looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, right. Like, this guy's, you know, this is a little weird. And then, like, you know, he's like, no, like, I'm serious. So we worked it out, and I had a friend drop me off in Dubuque, Iowa, which is like an hour and a half west of here. And Joe picked me up, and I went to Southern Illinois and filmed with him for the weekend as kind of like my trial period. And after that, I was living in Iowa working at Risen Media. So that was kind of my first getting paid, and all that was all in the same time. And it was a huge step in my career.
Yeah. And that's all waterfowl and like a little bit of turkey, right?
Hallowed Ground is all, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry, deer.
Whitetail,
not waterfowl.
Yeah, it was whitetail and turkey. It was awesome. I had a lot of fun working for those guys and living out there, but eventually the time came where I just wanted to come back to Illinois. That's where all my friends were and my family was.
Okay, so whitetail filming. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really gotten into your waterfowl filming yet, but I will kind of try to make the transition there. What's the difference in not only the subject, I guess the hunter subject, and the setting and the differences? What's kind of explain the difference between going from whitetail to waterfowl?
Man, the difference between the two is like, at the end of the day, you're still hunting. But they are such polar opposites, because when you're whitetail hunting, you know, you're up in a tree stand, you're filming the host, you know, you're shooting your interview, and then you're shooting some cutaways. Yeah, and then you're filming deer.
Like?
Most of the time it's, you know, pretty easy going. And, you know, you just say, we generally started off with an opener to the hunt, and then whenever something would happen, we would do another quick interview. And typically I would sit about 2 feet up and kicked at a 90-degree angle to the left. So we could talk and communicate, but, you know, we would go through our regular kind of checklist so that we knew we had the footage from that day. And if a story were to unfold, we knew that we were going to have the pieces that we needed. And it was fun, definitely fun. But there was times where when you're stuck in a tree with somebody for long periods of time, that you guys, I would say, do get aggravated. You know, there's something somebody does that the other person.
I was going to ask, how do you piss the host off? Like, as a cameraman, what's the stuff? I mean, okay, obviously like being loud and all that other stuff, but how else do you piss the host off?
Man, I would say like not agreeing on, you know, a shot, excuse me, not agreeing on a shot, or, you know, some of the stipulations of being set up is, oh, this camera's not going to work like this, or, there's a lot of variables. The only time I really had a problem, sorry, Joe, if you're listening to this. The only time I really had a problem, I remember it was right about the last time that the last couple weeks that I was working at Riz, and I knew I was going back to Illinois. We were in Montana. We'd been hunting for 5 days straight for their early season whitetail. And it was about a 30-mile-an-hour wind. My boots were wet, so I borrowed some big size 12 boots from Joe. We had to walk across the creek, and we got up in this cottonwood tree that was just deader than a doornail, and the wind was ripping, and I was just, at that point, I was like, I don't have health insurance. I was just paranoid, and that was the only time we had a falling out in the tree.
Sounds about right. That's good. You never want to climb up in those dead trees. What's the biggest mess up that you've had as a videographer for the hunt? Oh
man. We were out. It was actually that same trip. Hunting in Montana is weird because it's so wide open, and it was like these deer were popping out on this little point, 500 yards away. Well, as soon as they get in that green field with the pivot, they were pretty much on a beeline straight to the bottom of our tree. And there was a nice deer. I think he was probably in the mid to upper 50s. And then there was another one that was probably mid to upper 30s. And they came in so hot, and he drew back. And when he drew back, she's like, "You on him?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm on him." And he shot, and luckily he missed because I was on the complete wrong deer. So we figured that out after the fact of when we were watching footage, and I was like, "Holy smokes!" Like I'm so glad that worked out the way it did, because if he would have killed that deer, and I wouldn't have had that on film, that would have been an issue, because then there goes a whole episode, and when you're talking an episode with TV, you're talking money and paychecks. It's like, holy smokes. Not to mention the cost of getting us to Montana and all that stuff. That I'd say that was my biggest mess up in the whitetail woods.
Jeez. Okay, so transition into waterfowl. What's the difference?
Man, the difference between waterfowl and whitetail, whitetail, you're sitting in the stand and you have a tree arm most of the time. Well, all the time if you're in a stand, but some of the spot and stalk stuff, you use a shoulder rig. But with waterfowl, you're often stuck in these situations where you're either trying to film from a layout blind, or you're in a marsh trying to film, and it's definitely, I would say, like, camera stability is probably the number one trickiest part to waterfowl filming, because you don't, if you've ever tried to lay on your back and film something that's coming at you, it's a little tough. Over time, it's kind of acquired. Over time, you get used to it, and you're trying to follow focus or pull focus on something that's, dropping out of the sky more or less, rather than a whitetail that's just kind of meandering around through a food plot. So I would say, I don't want to throw any whitetail guys under the bus for sure, but I would say waterfowl is definitely harder to film than whitetails.
Sure. It's a little bit more, would you say it's a little bit more forgiving though, because you get multiple attempts?
Yeah, and I mean there's a number of times where you're stuck, and you can take, whether it's cutaways of a dog or whatever, and that there's more birds that are going to end up getting killed that day, so you can get that shot that you need. As to where whitetail, you got one time and that tag's punched, and then it's done.
Yeah, I feel like there's more B-roll opportunity with waterfowl hunting as well.
And I think that kind of falls back to the camaraderie aspect of waterfowl.
Yeah.
There's all, what it's like being in a duck blind and cutting it up with your buddies and talking, and seeing the dog work and, you know, shells ejecting. There's so many things that are pleasing to the eye to see that, I would agree and say that there's definitely more B-roll.
What's the most cliche shot for you? Like, what's the one that you're like, oh God, if I see another one of those shots.
Oh man. I sound like
the Judas videographer here. Like,
I'm going to be such a hypocrite right now because I do it, but like the slow motion shots of the guys popping out of the blind.
Oh yeah, you don't like that one, huh?
Oh gosh, it just eats me up. But yeah, I do it.
There's nothing really particularly entertaining for me to see a man popping up out of his blind. I don't know.
I think used as
it's all a little bit dramatic.
Yeah, and it's like used as a cutaway. That's kind of, I guess you're trying to build the anticipation, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, maybe build the anticipation would be him jumping out of the layout blind and then nothing getting shot. But I would say the exits out of the layout blind are definitely the most cliche shots for me.
How do you do?
Because then you can tell too. I don't mean to interrupt. Then you can tell completely.
No, sorry, go ahead.
You can tell completely when they're staged. Or like the call shots where they're staged, like, you know, there's a guy leaning up against a tree and there's a guy filming straight at him while he's calling, you know, it's like, yeah, so that guy was standing in the middle of the kill hole.
Yeah.
I'm gonna piss so many people off by saying that. And like I said, I'm a hypocrite because I've done them too, but I would say those are the shots when you see, you're like, come on, it was great until that part.
Okay, how do you guys do sound out there? Like, do you also have to then now become like a professional sound engineer guy, or what's that about? Like,
most of the time, what I run is I'll run one camera set up with a long lens, and then I'll have a mirrorless camera set up for, you know, basically run and gun style stuff. And most of the time with that, I'll have my shotgun mic on my camera with the long lens, and then I'll have a wireless mic on the B-roll camera. Sometimes I'll run a Rode shotgun mic on the B-roll camera as well, but I like myself using a wireless mic. I just think that it's I'm not 100% technical, but I think it's omnidirectional or whatever they call it. So it's just capturing the sound right in front of it rather than everything around.
Sure. So, I mean, have you ever had any videos where you came back and you were, oh, damn it, the fuzzy fell off of this thing and it's just all blown out. Now I got to put some music montage over it when it was actually a really cool organic scene, something like that.
Definitely. Yeah, you know, I wouldn't say recently, but in my younger days, it was like when I didn't really know a lot about the audio factor of things, I would get something that I would come in and it would be, you know, it would blow past the waveforms were through the roof, and it was like, man, and you try to fix it and you do everything you can, and then at the end of the day, you end up just dropping the audio track and putting a song over it.
Yeah. And I think, what you were talking about, because I guess I can't let it slide since I'm supposed to be like a sound / podcast guy. If it's only, you know, it's cardioid, when it's only just picking up the thing in front of it, and omnidirectional is picking up everything around it.
See, there you go. I was completely wrong.
Well, I also Googled it. So people are going to like hear me type it and go, that mofo right there. He just Googled that. But I was like, oh, I can't get that wrong. I can't get that wrong because, I'll get roasted for it or something. And of course, 99% sure I knew it, but Can't be wrong on these things. People
But
you know, buddy.
You know what, too? To me, it's like audio is a whole different beast. And I openly admitted that for me, I'm no genius when it comes to the audio. I know what works for me, and that's what I'm going to use. At the end of the day, if some client is worried that, if a client's worried about what mic I'm using isn't the right setup, then I don't know. I don't know what to say to them about that.
Yeah, dude, like coming from a podcast stand, like I know the answer to the test. I know it. I know what I got to do. But for me, like I work freaking 60 hours a week, not including the stuff I put into my podcast. And so it's really hard. Well, not really hard. It's time consuming to get great audio. I'd give myself a B, B plus maybe in the audio department. But to get yourself to an A or an A plus, that's that's time,
Yeah. And there's a lot that goes into it too. It's cost of equipment. It's time. It's,
people have degrees in that.
Yeah. And it's here we are, a bunch of people that are self-taught more or less.
Yeah. Can't even figure out omnidirectional versus cardioid without Google. And we're on a podcast. So, okay. Let's talk about some projects that you got going on. I think first, let's lead off with, the Tony Vandemore stuff. Just go big first.
Yeah. The project, we just wrapped up. Well, I just wrapped up the 8th episode actually today of the Glory Days. That was kind of a concept that we came up with last year. We actually came up with it when I was down there filming for his hardcore stuff, and then figured out that we were going to give it a whirl and try it out. And he and his wife Kate were very, very helpful along the process, and they were looking forward to it. And so we kind of just went for it, and it's done really well. It's got awesome reviews, and one thing that I found that was extremely odd in this day and age, and now that I say this, someone's probably going to go do it, but is in all the episodes that we've dropped, there's not been one negative comment about whether it be a bird shot or the way something was. I mean, everybody likes it. It shows the workload involved. It really shows Habitat Flats and what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty crazy that you don't have any negative comments yet. I wrestled with myself when I was going to ask this, because I've had Tony on the show before, and it was, I had to stop him from talking about kids and life and all this other stuff, so that we could start the show, because I was running out of time. Oh, no, I'm not kidding. My impression of him is that he is I'm nobody, on this scale. And, especially on episode number 16 of the Foul Front Waterfowl podcast. And he was taking his time, and he just talked to me I was so impressed with him.
And I think that is one of the most common misconceptions is, people see the success that he's had and has, for all that matter, with Habitat Flats. And I mean, Benelli, just everything he's done is incredible, and what he's done for the industry is awesome. But Tony is some people give him a bad rap, say he's holding ducks and hot cropping and all that stuff. You know what? The guy knows what he's doing. He's doing it for a reason. He's killing ducks day in and day out. And if you were to sit down and talk to him at the table, he's the most humble guy you'll ever meet, which is, to me, that is very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And so you've got 8 episodes. How many are out right now?
There is the 7th episode just launched. yesterday on Wednesday. They come out every Wednesday at 5:00. And
you got to turn and burn that stuff, man.
What's that?
You have to like turn and burn that. You just finished up today with episode 8 filming, right?
Yeah. So it kind of, there's been a change in schedule with it. So what we did was we filmed all last fall, and that was to be ready by July 17th, the launch date. So I had a lot of time to work on those, and then came up with a new concept for this year. The episodes are going to be shorter, and they're going to be every week. So going forward now, every Wednesday at 5, there will be a Glory Days episode that'll be in between 3 and 5 minutes. So that will showcase the previous week at Habitat Flats.
Awesome. And you also did the hardcore intro, right? Where it was like, you know, they were introducing him and you couldn't tell who it was, like kind of knew who it was.
Yeah, that was the first project that I had worked on with Tony. And obviously Rusty and the guys over at Hardcore, they contacted me and got me in on that project. And that was a lot of fun. And I was very happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was good. Talk a little bit before we get into your next project that I want to talk about. Talk kind of about Hardcore. Tell me a little bit about the Hardcore story. Hardcore Brands, excuse me.
So with Hardcore Brands, I had a buddy that I actually raced with at the time, and he worked down there. They're only about an hour from me. So he was working down there, and he got me in to be on their promotional staff or their field staff, whatever you want to call it. And man, I want to say it was 2015. They underwent some management changes and some stuff with employees, and Rusty was brought on, and he took a liking to the content that I was doing, and he reached out to me about doing some waterfall stuff for him. So Rusty was huge in my outbreak with waterfall.
Yeah, he's
for sure.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, Rusty's a good dude. I owe a lot of credit to him. He's gotten me in contact with a lot of people in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. I think Hardcore Brands, I don't think it gets talked a lot about in the tribe, the kind of who we're talking about with that. And I don't know. They're not the same. Well, they're not the same company they were in the 90s, and they're not the same company they were 5 years ago. Right. And, I think I'm just really excited to see what Hardcore, is in the next 5 years,
Yeah. I mean, they definitely went through their time where, it was tough for the company. Product was, I would say, subpar, and they were producing a lot of it. And then, they kind of took the reins back, and they came out with a new product and got rid of the old plastic. And, we had 1 year, I believe it was 1 year, developing the new material and, the new decoy lines and seeing how they held up and whatnot. And I think right now, as it stands with Hardcore, there's a lot of people that I don't want to sell them on Hardcore, but at the same time I do. They need to rethink their option with Hardcore, because they are definitely a proven decoy at this point, and as far as I'm concerned, they're indestructible.
Okay, so Ty, and that project, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Man, it was just this week we launched that project, and Ty Hockett, he's a C5 quadriplegic out of a little bit south of Dayton, Ohio. I think he's south or southwest, and I actually came across him on Instagram. and I saw his pictures of him working dogs and doing everything that he does. And, he was doing it just like an able-bodied person. And I'm like, holy smokes, I want to know this kid's story. Instantly when I saw his pictures, I was intrigued. So I actually kind of went out on a limb with him, and I just sent him a message on Instagram. And I was like, hey man, this is what I do. I make videos. I tell stories. Like, I would love to hear your story and all the details if you'd be willing to open up and tell me. So, man, it was like the next day we got on a call. He told me his whole story, and I thanked him, and I sat for a couple days and made up the decision that I wanted to help him out, and I wanted to share his story with the world. So I called him back and asked him what he thought about it, and he was all for it. So it was maybe a month or two later, and me and a buddy out of Kansas City, he has a production company out there. We headed out to Miamisburg and started our first shoot with him. So that was a crazy project. We had shot with him out in Miamisburg for a weekend, and then he came to Illinois for our opener last year, and we shot here, and then he was here for like 5 days that time. And I actually built a wheelchair ramp on the front of my house so he could get in. And I had the poor guy sleeping on a mattress in my office, him and his wife. And then we filmed again late season, and then got a little bit of content in March of this year. And then the editing process started and came up with a storyboard.
Yeah, I'm full disclosure for everybody here. I usually try to keep a little mystery to what the next episode's going to be, or something like that. But I'm going to have Ty on here pretty shortly, kind of talk about his story, and then kind of talk about some of the stuff we take for granted, and how he gets after it, and I think right there, the one thing about Ty is like seeing that fire, A lot of dudes would have rolled over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't want to spill the beans for the rest of the people that are going to listen to that episode, but just to actually be around him and see the stuff that he does is incredible. Because it is unreal. It's like, how do you do that? His legs don't work. Ty, how do you do that? And he's a jokester. You got to watch out for him. He might act serious all the time, but man, he is, once he gets loosened up around you, he definitely has the one-liners.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Okay. Last project I want to talk to you about. The Weekender project.
The Weekender project. So what we're doing is, and this is kind of a self-funded project, kind of bringing it back to the roots of, filming content for I guess free and putting it out there for people for free. And we just want to show everyone in the industry that, I don't want to say everyone in the industry, we want to show people that, everybody out there is just like one another. You have to work to hunt. And I teamed up with a local dude around here he's been running a little crew called Last Call Waterfall for, years, and filming. And we linked up and came up with the concept. And so this fall we're gonna be attacking it. It's gonna be real cool. We're gonna follow basically the concept is we're gonna follow people that are, working a 9 to 5 just so that they can hunt Saturday and Sunday. And I think it's a project that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to, and it should do well. It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun with it. It's going to be cool not being under any contract. So if we want to use some hip hop music or do some crazy shots, we're going to do everything we can to get that done.
Yeah, I never realized how expensive mainstream music is until I wanted a little bit of that in there.
It's gonna be different. We're gonna have fun with it. We got some ideas that are going to be some shots that are going to be real interesting, but they're going to be even harder to get. But once we get them, it'll be a shot of, wow, that was cool. And that's kind of what we're setting out to do. We want stuff that's eye catching and, stuff that people are going to like and they're going to relate to.
What have you shot already? Can you give us a taster, a preview?
We got a couple shoots up our sleeve. We'll just have to. We'll have to
So
let the world see that.
We don't get a taster.
Yeah, no taste yet. The only thing I will say that we filmed, that I'll admit to filming so far, is just teal scouting. Some general around town stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a fun project. Definitely throwing it back to the roots and having fun with it. Never going to take it serious.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. There's this thing out there where if you're not wearing this thing, if you're not shooting this thing, and if you're not stacking that tailgate full, and hell, like I like seeing a stacked tailgate just as much as anybody does. I really do. For me, it tells me I can look back at that tailgate pic and go, oh yeah, that was the day we shot, this and that. I remember that day. Look at those birds. I remember those. And it's a good recall for me. But there's kind of this thing where why the weekend warrior is a kind of a bad connotation now. It's like, oh, you're just a weekend warrior or you're just a Duck Dynasty guy, And man, buddy, that's like a lot. That's everyone. Like that's most hunters. And I mean, those dudes, that's what they're thinking about when they're punching that clock at 5 p.m. And they're thinking about getting out to the blind with their buddies. And I don't know. It kind of sucks to know that. Unfortunately, we kind of have this thing where that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and I, that's the worst part of it. And I don't know if I've been hanging around Tony Vandemore too much or what, but one thing he always says is, as hunters, united we stand, divided we fall. And I mean, that's the thing, is everybody's just got to chalk it up. It doesn't matter what call you're blowing, what clothes you're wearing, or what gun you're shooting. Everybody's out there to do the same thing. You're out there to shoot your birds and have fun. Not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day is going to have a limit. And, that's what the world needs to see. That's what, people need to relate to that not every day is going to be a full limit. Not every day is going to be a great day in the field. But I think with social media, things have just gotten so out of hand where if you don't kill a limit every time you go out, you're not a serious hunter, or you don't have the credibility to be a duck hunter or a goose hunter, so to speak. And that's kind of our objective with the weekenders, is to show people that it's all right. Like, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do, if you're having fun, if you're doing what you want to do, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's a really good message. And I need to do a better job of promoting that message as well. Because I feel that way. And it's tough because nobody likes, being the guy in the room that thinks that somebody might think that, that dude's a better duck hunter than that guy. Because, man, damn it, I think about ducks. Anytime my mind is not on work or like my family, where does it drift to? It drifts to ducks. It's something I care very deeply about. And I don't really take too fondly to somebody else thinking, somebody might be more into it than I am. It's just kind of a human nature thing. It's a flaw. It's a character flaw. It's a fallacy. But I think it speaks very true to kind of, I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, asinine, if you will. People just want to hunt. People want to have fun. And
Yeah.
it's gotten too out of hand. It needs to get back to the roots.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Be happy with your 3 ducks and, the fact that you got to drink coffee with your buddies in the morning. Yeah. And you weren't sleeping in.
Yeah. Even any ducks, any geese. I mean, you go out, you kill one bird. Good job. You did it. You go out and you get skunked. You got to sit in your blind and watch the world wake up. Have fun with your friends, and you're there breathing for another day. That's what you need to be thankful for.
The sun rose.
Oh, man.
The sun rose. So, all right, brother. Hey, what can we be seeing from you next?
Next up, I would say I'm headed to Saskatchewan in the end of September, up there to Tony's Central Prairie Lodge. And we're going to be doing a little video work up there, and then going to be doing some videos down at the Grand, his new facility. So we'll have a little bit of work.
Have you had eyes on that yet?
I have. That's actually cool. I've got to document the whole process of from before the dirt was even broke. So place is, I guess, incredible.
How quickly has that gone up? Because I guess I was thinking that it was like they got delayed because of the flooding, right? I thought there was a whole thing about that. Maybe I'm not very well versed in it.
I believe what happened was when it flooded, some of the contractors weren't able to get in there. But I would say as far as groundbreaking, I was down there filming during snow goose season in March, and there was still timber up on the bluff where the lodge was going to go. And now I just saw that they're wrapping up, doing all the cabinetry and stuff inside. So they are moving right along, and that place is amazing.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. So
it is.
And then obviously you're going to be.
The view of the Grand is probably the craziest part. I'm not one to get too overwhelmed with a view, but it sits up on a big bluff and overlooks the Grand Pass Refuge. So it's unreal. It's going to be a heck of a show to sit there and watch in the fall with all the birds coming in.
Oh, and I'm sure you'll give us a little glimpse of that, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some clips floating around here or there.
Awesome. All right, Max. Hey, Max Akerman, where can we find all your stuff at? So if someone's curious to see what we were talking about for the last 69 minutes and 30 seconds, where can they find your stuff?
You can either check me out on Instagram at Max Akerman Creative, or you can check me out at Vimeo at Max Akerman Creative. Most of my work on Vimeo is up to date. I still have some more projects to throw up there, but yeah, I would say general interaction is through Instagram. I'm normally posting quite frequently there and letting people know what projects I'm working on and stuff like that.
All right, man. Well, have fun with your teal hunt. Is it this weekend?
It will be on Sunday.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, have fun. Stay safe, and send me some pictures.
You too, man. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, later, Max.
Thank you. Yep.
Hey, well, how'd that go for you? Yeah, absolutely.